Former Vice President Joe Biden is now a 2020 presidential candidate. Bet you didn't see that coming. In a 3-minute campaign video released this morning, Biden cited the 2017 white nationalist rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, as a turning point. Biden condemned President Trump's response to the violence when he said that there were very fine people on both sides. That's a quote. A senior campaign aide says for Biden, that moment quote, shook him to the core.
That's why today I'm announcing my candidacy for President of the United States. Folks, America's an idea that's stronger than any army, bigger than any ocean, more powerful than any dictator or tyrant. It gives hope to the most desperate people on earth. It guarantees that everyone is treated with dignity and gives hate no safe harbor.
Biden is the 21st candidate for the Democratic nomination. Polls show that right now he is one of the favorites. President Trump has already responded to Biden's candidacy with insults. Bet you didn't see that coming. Writing, quote, "Welcome to the race, Sleepy Joe. I only hope you have the intelligence, long in doubt, to wage a successful primary campaign." CBS News political correspondent Ed O'Keefe is here and joins me now.
Bet you didn't see that coming either.
Yeah. So, Ed, the president already responding with insults to Joe Biden. I mean, what do you make of what Joe Biden said in the video? Because he really led the video. Could have talked about a lot of other things, a lot of things that he's accomplished as a senator, a lot of things he was able to accomplish as Barack Obama's vice president, but he led with Charlottesville.
Yeah, and we know that people might remember there was a story a few weeks ago where Biden was spotted outside his boyhood home in Scranton, Pennsylvania, shooting a video. This was not that video. This was another one. There was a debate here in the closing days before the announcement about which way to go. And it's telling that he went with a 3-minute video that spent almost a minute and a half talking about an incident 2 years ago. But as we reported, something that clearly spoke to Biden's decision to run for president, made it clear he had to do it. It's also a signal that this Democratic candidate, at least, is willing to spend some of his political capital, his universal name recognition, to go after the guy the Democrats are trying to defeat. There are other Democrats who don't want to go that far, can't afford to do it because they got to talk about themselves and explain who they are. But, you know, we'll see whether or not that succeeds. And it's telling that, that he releases it today, that he will then spend the next few days mostly just behind closed doors fundraising. An acknowledgement that, you know, while he can do this and while there will be plenty of chatter about him, he's got to very quickly focus on raising money.
So it's interesting. You make a great point. A lot of the other candidates running for the presidency have chosen not to necessarily focus on Donald Trump, at least not the things that the president has said or tweeted, because they realize that for a vast majority of the electorate, as far as they're concerned about other things. They're worried about other things. And so why do you think Biden is choosing this tactic, if you will?
Well, I think, again, it's you know, you look at the polling, you ask people what Joe Biden's about or who he is, they would argue that people know this is somebody who's looked out for the little guy, who has foreign policy experience, who's worked in the White House, who was in Congress. Like, his credentials are known well enough. And also, he was part of the Obama legacy, which, not for nothing, was a popular presidency. Democrats certainly were fans of it. So he feels that you should go after and address the gorilla in the room, and that is the president. And the fact that, you know, this is somebody that needs to go, in his view. We should point out, and it's part of why I think we're seeing the president weigh in so quickly this morning, he told Jeff Glor last year it would be a dream to run against Joe Biden, because he sees that as the perfect clash of aging titans, and makes you wonder, are we going to have a campaign potentially about what happened over the last 10 years? Or will it be a forward-looking campaign that worries about what's coming next?
So speaking of forward-looking, some of the Democrats, younger Democrats, have already released a statement. I think I saw that from an email from you, that they released a statement saying, look, they're going to support whoever the Democratic nominee ultimately is, but they don't think that Joe Biden is in step with current policies that the Democratic Party stands for. So what are some of those liabilities that Vice President Biden brings to the table, and what are some of the strengths?
He's got a 40-year paper trail, which will be picked apart by his opponents and by those of us in the press if it hasn't been already. That's everything from, at one time, fighting busing policies in Delaware and across the country as a way to deal with school desegregation.
Siding with Jesse Helms at the time.
Exactly.
Which was, a lot of people find that problematic.
And that's a long conversation that people should go do their own research on. He's explained it. There's, of course, his handling of the Anita Hill, Clarence Thomas situation in 1992. But he would turn around and say, look, I've also been a big supporter and defender of the Violence Against Women Act, the assault weapons ban, the Affordable Care Act, and a host of other things that are popular with Democrats and with Americans broadly. The other issue for him, I think this is just fascinating. We talk about the diversity of the field. Record number of women, minorities. We got an openly gay candidate this time. He's 76. Pete Buttigieg is 37. When Joe Biden ran for president in 1988, Pete Buttigieg was in kindergarten.
It is remarkable.
Think about that.
That is remarkable. When we look at this this list of these candidates that are running for the presidency, it's the most diverse list of Democratic presidential candidates in American history. Does Vice President Biden expect to run on President Obama's legacy? Because this is a guy who's never come close to even getting the nomination for the presidency, and yet Barack Obama is not endorsing it.
He will campaign on it. Visually, he's already campaigning on it. If you watch the video, if you look at his Instagram feed and some other things, there are pictures of him with Obama, sort of a subtle reminder to people if they needed it. And we should point out that former President Obama this morning in a statement said, picking Biden in 2008 as his running mate, one of the best decisions of his life, but we're told, don't expect to see him weigh in on the primary early on. He's more likely to wait. That's an acknowledgement that there are 21 candidates, as we count it here at CBS, in the field. If you go back 12 years ago, there was a young upstart that nobody thought could become president who became president. I think he's reserving, or he's appreciating the context that perhaps things will shift and go in a different direction, and he has to allow that process to play out. Probably a wise move.
Yeah. You've reported a lot on the several women that have accused the former vice president of behavior that made them feel uncomfortable. Some have said it was inappropriate. That is whether or not he expects it. I know that he put out a video addressing it, but that is going to be a major issue going forward. It's
going to be an issue that continues to dog him, and I think we're going to hear from some of these women again saying, don't forget what I've accused him of or what the issue that I raised. Lucy Flores, the original accuser, was at an event yesterday in Houston where a lot of other Democratic contenders spoke because she's a supporter of the different groups that were sponsoring that event, but sort of a reminder physically that, you know, by being there that, hey, I've raised some concerns about the guy who is allegedly our frontrunner, at least if you believe the polling. Look, surveys taken since all that news broke suggest it's done very little to affect his standing. The question will be, if he gets asked questions about it, either by us or directly by voters, how does he handle those questions? And does he do it in a way that isn't as sort of dismissive or joking as it was in those first two times we saw him speak out right after the allegations were made? Remember, he gave a speech where he kind of joked that, oh, he gave me permission to hug him. Right. You know, you do it once, it's one thing. You do it twice, it's like, now you're needling us.
Yeah.
It's a little weird.
I'm not a politics guy at it, and before we wrap this up, I'm trying to understand how the president of the United States can, if Biden is the eventual nominee, and the polls show that he's the front runner, how the president can go toe-to-toe with the vice president over these issues when at least a dozen women have accused the current president of the United States of sexual assault, worse than just being handsy.
Makes you think that it would cancel out the issue, and I think that would probably be of concern to a lot of voters who say, look, you know, is that necessarily who we want to have not only as our nominee, but leading the country? And so we'll see over the course of this campaign whether it becomes a bigger issue and one that leads to him not ultimately being the nominee.
Fascinating. Ed O'Keefe, always great to have you, my friend. Thank
Strap
you very
in.
much. I know. Yeah, it's good to see you in New York.
21-way race.
We really didn't see that coming. You are